The title of this talk is, It's a Baby. Randall Terry had brought Project Rescue to Buffalo some years earlier to organize a series of demonstrations against abortion clinics. In fact, I saw a demonstration going on University Avenue, just the other side of Barnhill, I think it was, as we drove over today. This demonstration was met by a group of pro-choice advocates stylizing themselves as Buffalo United for Choice. That controversy was followed by the assassination of Dr. Bernard Slepian in Amherst, New York, right next to Buffalo, by one James Kopp. Kopp crawled up into the forest behind Dr. Slepian's house and shot him in his living room, killed him. And Kopp is now in prison for life. Those days were long past, and the current generation of students knew little of those tense days. Occasional demonstrations still occurred outside clinics, but they lacked the violence and cacophony of the earlier times. As I was teaching a bioethics course at the University of Buffalo, I went down to the site of one of the ongoing demonstrations to gather color for my course and see if I could engage any of the demonstrators in useful dialogue. I'd long been puzzled by what seemed to me to be a disconnect between pro-life rhetoric about abortion and what I knew of the scientific facts. I'm married to a scientist whose specialty is reproductive physiology, and she's been the source of my education, such as it is, on the subject of reproduction, not only as my wife and mother of our son, but also as my teacher. So I was eager to find a pro-life advocate who was knowledgeable about that position's theories and accounts, with whom I can engage in some kind of probing exploration of its presuppositions. This group of demonstrators, I hoped, would yield such a discussant. When I arrived at the site, it was a small park across the street from an OB-GYN clinic. The 7 demonstrators were marching in a rough circle in the parking lot, carrying various placards with pictures of aborted fetuses and slogans such as, "Abortion is murder." One lady dressed in a flower print dress, a hat, white gloves, and crew socks and sneakers caught my interest. She alternated between several slogans. "It's a baby," "Stem cells are murder," "Abortion is murder," slogans the others were chanting as well. I watched for 15 minutes or so, and then the group appeared to break for a rest. The lady moved off from the others to sit on a park bench and take some sips from a bottle of water. She looked a little tired. I decided to ask her some questions and slowly approached her so as not to be alarming. "Excuse me, but could I ask you a few questions?" Not waiting for a reply, I went on, "I was listening to your slogan of 'It's a baby,' and I wanted to ask you about it." She seemed reassured and patted the bench next to her, indicating that I could sit. "I've been studying some material at the university on human reproduction," I began, "and also some religious material from some Catholic publications. I'm puzzled by some things and thought you might be able to help me understand them better. I teach medical ethics at the university to undergraduates, and I'm always looking for greater clarity on the issues we cover." She brightened a bit. "I'd be happy to talk to you, although I don't know whether I can convince you of anything." I said, "Well, I'm not really looking to be convinced. I'm looking for information and understanding. Convincing will have to wait until I'm better equipped to do it." She said, "Well, what do you want to know?" "Let me see if I can state your position accurately. As starters," I began, "if I can do that, maybe I can make clearer what puzzles me about it." She asked, "Are you Catholic?" I said, "No, but I do read a lot of Catholic publications. They are interesting and they raise a lot of questions in my mind." "Well, go ahead then," she said. "I'll see if you understand the Catholic view." Let me get this thing right. Is that up? Okay. I began, "Well, let's see if I understand things as you see them. You think that fertilization of the woman's egg occurs at the instant the sperm penetrates it, and that this is the moment at which the unique individual soul first becomes associated with the body, the point when a single, genetically unique individual human being comes into existence." She said, "Correct so far. The baby exists from the moment of conception. I said, well, I'll get to conception in a moment. This product of fertilization you hold is numerically identical with the infant that would be born if the natural course of gestation were not interrupted, right? She nodded vigorously. So anything numerically identical with a human infant is itself that human being, whatever the difference in their appearances. Even though this is a one-celled thing, because it has a soul that will direct the development of the pre-embryo throughout gestation and continue in the body throughout the individual's life, and because it is genetically identical with the baby that would be born in 9 months if nothing interrupts the pregnancy, it is that baby. That's what you mean by the slogan you keep repeating. It's a baby, correct? She smiled. You understand me better than my husband. I went on. Now, from these claims, you conclude, first, that abortion at any time during pregnancy kills a human being. Second, contraception measures that prevent the fertilized ovum's implantation involve serious child abuse that results in the child's death. And three, creating fertilized ova as sources for stem cells involves creation of human beings to be exploited and ultimately destroyed. Am I correct in those conclusions from the earlier things we agreed you believe? She drew herself up. Those are all facts about abortion and contraception and embryonic stem cells that Father Thomas explained over and over in his homilies. I said, good. Now that I have the basics of your view right, let me tell you what happened to me when I compared this conservative view with the scientific facts my wife has been teaching me about. Because it seems to me that some of the scientific facts clash with these beliefs of yours. She squared her shoulders and he said, well, I don't see how they could conflict. What you call the conservative view is the true view, so if the facts conflict, so much the worse for the facts. Bear with me, please, I said. It's my head I'm trying to straighten out. Okay, she said, tell me where you're confused. Well, in the first place, I don't understand the view that talks about the instant of fertilization, and even less about equating it with the moment of conception. What's to understand? She said. Well, I explained, when the sperm enters the egg, as we have here, the egg's genetic material is not ready to fuse. The egg went through its first meiotic division when it was expelled by the follicle, but it has to go through a second meiotic division before its genetic material is capable of joining the sperm's genetic material. I apologize for this next slide. It's a little fuzzy, but that's the process through which the ovum passes down the fallopian tube, becoming fertilized on the way, and eventually implants in the lining of the uterus. That second meiotic division that has to go through before it's capable of joining the sperm's genetic material starts only after the sperm has penetrated the egg. Yes, she said slowly. So? Well, one more point. The process of the second meiotic division and the combining of the sperm's DNA with that of one of the products of the second division takes most of a day to complete. So fertilization doesn't occur at an instant or a point. It is a process that occurs over some 18 to 20 hours. She said, well, I don't see what any of this has to do with what's wrong about abortion or harvesting stem cells from babies. Well, maybe it's just the imprecision of the talk that bothers me, I said, but it seems to me that it is unclear in this process view of fertilization when the soul is infused. If it is as the sperm penetrates the egg, the DNA from the second meiotic division is not determined yet. There's a lot of crossing over and other mixing of parts of the chromosomes in the egg that go on after the sperm penetrates. And the genetic identity of the egg isn't even fixed. So it seems to me that there's no definite complement of DNA to define the future child that is yet fixed for the soul to be associated with. She tossed her head. Well, all you've done is replaced a supposed instant of fertilization with a process. Why not suppose that when the fusion of the man's DNA and the woman's DNA is complete, you have the genetic identity fixed?